There are new developments taking place over the U.S. proposal to end the Russia-Ukraine war. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says there are still points of disagreement over the deal. But she also says that the flow of weapons from the U.S. to Ukraine via NATO is unsustainable. She also said that American diplomatic teams are working around the clock to get the peace deal over the line. But despite the ongoing peace negotiations, Ukraine is still getting bombarded by Russia. Ukraine says that at least 7 people were killed in overnight attacks on the capital, Kiev. Moscow fired both drones and missiles at Kiev. At least 2 people were killed when fires erupted in a residential area. 4 others died after an explosion at a warehouse. While the fighting has not stopped, Russia has also given its view in the ongoing negotiations. Their foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, highlighted the last meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, the one in Anchorage, Alaska, back in August. Lavrov said that once the U.S. negotiations with Ukraine are concluded and changes are made to the peace plan, it should still reflect the spirit and letter of the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska.
We have channels of communication with our U.S. counterparts, and we use them. We expect to receive the version they consider interim after the coordination phase with the Europeans and the Ukrainians ends. Then we will review it, because if the spirit and letter of Anchorage, the key understandings we recorded, are stripped out, it will be a fundamentally different situation. But for now, I repeat, we have not received anything officially.
His statement comes amid reports that a delegation from the U.S. has held unannounced peace talks with Russian officials in UAE's capital, Abu Dhabi. The American side was led by U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll. The exact nature of the talks with the Russians has not been made public. However, he's also expected to meet a Ukrainian delegation in Abu Dhabi. Meanwhile, the U.S. has reportedly pressed Ukraine to accept its proposal to end the war. During the recent talks in Geneva, this despite Kiev's protest that the plan conceded too much to Moscow. A senior official quoted in the reports said Washington did not directly threaten to cut off aid if Kiev rejected its proposal, but that Ukraine understands that this was a distinct possibility. The U.S. plan, originally made up of 28 points, would see Ukraine effectively cede its eastern Donetsk and Luhansk regions to Russia and slash the size of its military. On Sunday, Ukrainian, U.S. and European officials met in Geneva to draft an updated version of the plan to end the war, but the Kremlin responded saying that it would not accept European amendments. The White House has meanwhile pushed back on criticism that U.S. President Donald Trump was favoring Russia in its efforts to end the war.
The idea that the United States of America is not engaging with both sides equally in this war to bring it to an end is a complete and total fallacy.
Leavitt said that there is no meeting scheduled between Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky this week. Earlier reports said that Zelensky could travel to the U.S. to discuss with Trump sensitive aspects of a plan to end the war.
Команда наша доповідала сьогодні вже по новому драфту кроків, і це дійсно правильний підхід. Чутливі речі, сенситивні речі я обговорю з президентом Трампом. Україна ніколи не буде перепоною для миру. Це наш принцип, спільний принцип. І мільйони українців розраховують і заслуговують на достойний мир. Все для цього зробимо. Ми готові працювати максимально швидко.
Trump initially gave Zelensky until Thursday to respond to the first version of the plan, but German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has thrown doubts on Trump's deadline, saying at an EU-Africa summit in Angola that discussions will be a lengthy, long-lasting process. UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said important progress has been made in efforts towards a just and lasting peace, but insisted that Russia now needs to come to the table and stop bombardment. We earlier spoke to a political analyst and an expert in Russian politics, Dr. Umit Nazmi Hazir from Moscow, as well as defense expert and director, European Resilience Initiative Center, Dr. Sergei Sumleny from Kiev. This is what they both told us.
It seems that Russia supports this agreement, and actually it is not agreement, it is a like ultimatum, and it seems that it was like jointly prepared by United States and Russia, because there are almost 28 articles, and most of them are in line with the demands of Russia. That's why Russia is actually now supporting this agreement. But it is not acceptable for Ukraine, because it is the plan of Trump, is the plan of Trump peace plan, actually extremely harsh from Ukraine perspective. So it is acceptable for Russia, quite acceptable for Russia, but not acceptable for Ukraine. And what's more, European countries also are strongly opposed to this plan, and I do believe that there will be some revisions.
If you look at the scale of the advance, Russia indeed takes one village, another village, but on Donbass, it is one of the most dense populated territories of Ukraine, or used to be before the full-scale invasion. You drive like 1 mile, you go to another village. So the Russia's advance since the last 1 year has allowed Russia to conquer less than 1% of Ukrainian territory, compared with Russia's retreat in 2022, when Russia has left like 10% or 15% of Ukraine's territory. Russia pays enormous price for this advance, taking one empty village or another empty village. Russia was not able to take Pokrovsk for 2 years. Pokrovsk is 70,000 people city. 2 years, Russia could not take it. Now Russia is celebrating taking Pokrovsk, advancing for, let me say, 25 kilometers within the last 2 years as huge success. I'm sorry, I don't buy it.